So Trump does his speech at the UN, and he begins by saying, "Your countries have gone to hell." And then he goes on to give us a picture of sort of dystopian, post-Armageddon, kind of nightmare sci-fi crisis. Europe is finished, Europe is dead, broken. The usual thing. And if you look across at most of the right, let's call them the new right opinion formers, so-called trackers, analysts, and of course the MAGA movements across the UK and the USA, this is the language they use. It's one of a kind of dystopian vision that everything is broken, everything is collapsing, everything is dangerous now. It's a Mad Max type of vision. And that you go out of your house and you kind of, walk up to the local shop and you don't really see this kind of thing. And even if you're living in the cities, yes, the cities are noisy and they are vibrant and they are, they're full of cars and people of all colours and creeds, but it's not Mad Max, is it? Well, not usually. So what's really happening here? Why is this the sort of common expression of amongst these people on the state of the world? Well, okay, so obviously calculated to make you terrified and fearful and to make you kind of feel that they've got a handle on it, that they can see it and they can solve it and they are the solution and they are our salvation. But to understand these kind of new right kind of regimes, right thinkers, this right politics, this new kind of anti-woke right politics, you really need to understand religious cults, because that's what it is. And what they are talking about really is their own version of end times. Now, end times has been associated with religious cults as long as religious cults have existed. In fact, you can't really have a cult without there being a kind of end time scenario. What do we mean by end times? Well, we mean that the world has fallen. Okay, it's fallen either to the devil or in these modern cases, it's fallen to a kind of liberal, woke elite or something like that. But, just we can exchange that for the devil. And that unless these people are given complete authoritarian power, then, well, basically the end of the world will come. And that's why, if you look at the YouTube thumbnails for these supporters of these kind of regimes, you'll find it's all about broken Britain. The USA is a failed state. Europe is finished, and it just goes on and on and on and on. Okay, the idea of the end times is a very old Christian tradition, and it's used for exactly the same reasons as it was used in early Christianity and even modern Christianity, certainly in evangelical Christianity. This idea that the world is finished, we are your salvation. Come to the big Houston church. Come to the Prosperity Christian Club, and we will save you. It's the old story of good versus evil, of the saved versus the damned. Very simple. All this is exchanging the scripture, if you like, for politics. It's exactly the same play, and it's amazing that people can't see it. The reason that it's so prevalent in the US, of course, is because the US is easily the world's most religious, Christian religious country. I mean, by far and away. So to give you an example, in Iceland, you'd probably have about 2 or 3% of people would be kind of regular churchgoers. and then it would be 60% in certain states like Utah. So, if you like, it's already the support is already there in the idea that we are a Christian nation, and the whole idea post-Enlightenment, the whole idea even of the founding fathers, was to separate church from state, because this was the only way to have an effective, free state for all. And as I said, it's very strange how, why we would want to replicate that in the UK, where only 8 or 9% of people would regularly go to church. And this is why I think there'll be a little bit more resistance to Farage. This is a political tool. Doom, despair, fragmentation, broken. This is a way of sort of justifying all of their radical action. And it's happening with such great momentum at the moment that there's almost nothing you can do to stop it, because it's like comes in wave after wave, and therefore there is very little, very hard to get traction for a pushback. And also it is kind of call to arms as well, isn't it? It does make you feel quite good, I mean, they talk about the war spirit, where everybody kind of drops their kind of petty prejudices and rallies to a kind of national cry. Well, it's the similar sort of thing here. They're trying to give a sense of threat and therefore an urgent need to act. It's a very old playbook, and as I said, it's exactly the same as has happened in religious cults. They use exactly the same kind of language because it is a kind of religious cult. If you look at what these people say, it's kind of puritanical, sort of biblical ideology. There's something about these so-called charismatic leaders. I mean, I don't find them charismatic particularly, but for some reason they are considered charismatic. I mean, Nigel Farage, even his detractors and enemies would say about him, well, he's a wonderful orator, he's a great speaker, he's very charismatic, he's the sort of guy I'd love to go and have a pint with. And that's become kind of mythology. And it's the same with Trump a bit as well, but particularly with Farage. And yet, none of that's really true. He's not a particularly brilliant speaker. He's a bit of a buffoon, actually. You may already know that he's just talked about the fact that the immigrants in the UK are eating the swans in the local ponds, which is just replicating, I mean, word for word, except he's changed the animal from a dog to a swan, what Trump said. So this isn't original thinking, this isn't original speaking. And I don't know whether I would want to go and have a pint with Nigel Farage, actually. I understand the idea, the concept of it, but when you examine it, do you really want to go and have a drink with this bore? I don't know, maybe you do. So the thing is that these guys, they are similar to religious leaders. They have the same kind of quality about them that almost nothing can sort of touch them. Kind of everything they say has to be sort of profound, or is considered profound. And that's why they have these rallies. I mean, what's the difference between the rallies that are so popular in the right and the evangelical churches? It's the same kind of hysteria. It's the same kind of the chanting, the kind of rituals that go with it. Whether it be the hats or in the UK the Union Jacks. The whole thing. It's very parallel, and this is what I think is really, really frightening, or one of the things that's really, really frightening. And again, who is the devil? Who is the evil one? There is evil among us, and of course we know what they mean by the evil now, don't they? I mean, basically Trump's speech at the UN, when he was talking about Europe is finished, was a kind of white supremacist speech, and here was a white man kind of raging against without saying it, against the ethnic populations in Europe. So there you go. Never forget that there is this correlation between the religious and the state now, and they are coming together. So these narratives that you're hearing at the moment have been around for thousands of years, but they were the narratives of religious cults and religious leaders and religious movements, exactly the same playbook, that there was an enemy. The enemy controlled somehow by the devil, kind of evil was around us. And that only they can help you find a salvation in this evil, decaying, broken, fragmented world. And that prosperity lies with them. It's not true, of course. It's merely a way of trying to devolve from a post-Enlightenment world of rational discourse, science, logic, civil debate, and forming a kind of pseudo-Christian state. Now, when I say Christian, I don't mean like the sort of, friendly Christianity to which many of us are familiar with. I'm talking about a kind of Puritanism, the sort of Puritanism we've seen many times in places like America that have popped up from time to time. I mean, when you weren't allowed to drink because that was seen as the devil's drink. When communism came and it was necessary to kind of seek out the communists. So, we had the moonshiners and we had the commies and many other what we call folk devils before. The folk devils now, immigrants, and for some reason, perfectly reasonable, some kind of democratic people who believe in a social system. Very strange. We have become evil.